And that was your news at noon. Welcome back. This afternoon we're joined in the studio by surgeon, lay preacher and author Riaz Mohammed, who has been talking to us about his autobiography, What's Up Doc? A Surgeon's Story. Riaz, you first came to Scotland as a young child. What was your experience of growing up as an immigrant here?
Coming to Glasgow at the age of 6, when you don't speak English, you speak a bit of Urdu, it was quite difficult. And I think particularly because you look different from the other children. You didn't think you were different, but you soon realised, well, you are brown in colour, they're all white. And that was quite difficult, I'm sorry to say. And you know what children are like. They will call you names and make fun of you and not really be friendly with you. So I found it quite difficult. It was a difficult time.
Many of us have not experienced what it's like to grow up in another country. Did that experience leave a lasting impression on you?
I think that because I was different, it did make a major mental issue for me. I felt I was a foreigner living in a foreign place, and maybe some people would say you shouldn't even be here. So yeah, I felt as though I was no longer home, but I couldn't go back to Pakistan either. So where did I belong? And that is a question that has followed me for a long, long time, I have to say.
You write in your book about a defining moment of your life at a summer camp just after you left school. What happened and what impact did it have on you?
At that holiday camp, I met a young student, an art student, who must have been in his early 20s or something, who was a former pupil of the school. And he had come to help out. And when I saw him and how he behaved, how he spoke, how he reacted, I could tell right away that this young man walked with God, and God walked with him. And the thing that really touched my heart was the fact that he made it absolutely clear that he respected me, in fact, that he loved me, and I was just as important to him as any other person. That meant a lot to me, that meant a lot to me. And what meant even more, when he left after the first week, he said to me, Riaz, can I tell you something? I said, of course you can. And he said, I just want you to know I'll be praying for you. I couldn't believe it. Why would he spend time and effort praying for me, a foreigner that nobody else wanted to know? He didn't owe me anything. Well, why would he do that? It was the second Thursday of July, 1966. I remember it very well. Over 50 years ago, lying in my camp bed, when suddenly in the middle of the night I woke up and I found myself in the presence of the living God. And immediately I utterly and completely broke down. Tears down my face, heartbroken, and I just wanted the ground to open to hide me from this holy, holy presence. And I don't even know exactly how I know this. I've actually spoken to a consultant psychiatrist who looked after me when I became a medical student, and he couldn't explain it either. I knew right away that this holy God was none other than the Lord Jesus Christ. And to my utter astonishment, I discovered that he wasn't condemning me. I was condemning myself. And he looked at me and said, Riaz, come, follow me. And that night I said a prayer that nobody had ever taught me or had heard anyone else say. And the prayer I simply said was this, Jesus, come into my heart. From this day, I will follow you. But the difficulty is this, to tell your parents that you have abandoned their faith, which they believed in. That was very difficult, and I could not bring myself round to tell them because I was a coward, really, and useless. But I was telling other people, and I was in a place called Socky Hall Street in the centre of Glasgow, speaking with friends about Christianity, and obviously that news must have got back to my father, because when I went home, one of my cousins came up and said, "Your father wants to speak to me." And so this never happened before. And when I went to speak to my father, he looked at me looking very seriously, and he pointed at me and said, "Riaz, what does this I hear about you? Are you a Christian?" And I have to say, the three of the hardest words I've ever said in my life were simply these: "Yes, I am." And I didn't say that with great enthusiasm, I didn't say that with great power. It was just a weak way of saying, but I meant it. And it was obviously meant something to my father. I think he believed me, because from that day on, I was no longer his son. He had 4 sons, but now he only had 3. I was no longer part of his son, and that ended our relationship with my father in particular, who was of course the head of the family. So that's how I managed to tell them about my Christian faith, and found it extremely difficult. And the rest of my life thereafter, unfortunately, there was never any real relationship with my family.
Your medical career has taken you to the top of your field, both as a practicing surgeon and as a teacher at the very highest level. And your story has impacted so many, as it's told and retold around the world on radio, television, and of course now your book. Looking back, what's the thread that connects such an incredible journey?
I think the main themes would be that God is in control of my life by His grace through every aspect of my life. Whether it's from childhood, whether it's from in a marriage situation, a career situation. No, God is in control of everything. And what I learned, and I try to say in my book, is that God is trustworthy. Put your trust in Him, because if you do that, He'll look after you. Now, the evil one won't go away, to be quite honest, as you can imagine. He will try and trip you up, but God is superior by far, and He will look after you. And not only for this life, but I look forward to the day when I go home, to my real home, my eternal home, where God says He's prepared a room for me in His home. Can you believe it? The eternal God has a place for me to stay in with Him forever. So in the end of the day, He's my real Father, and He's your real Father too. Trust in Him. Trust in His love. There's nothing better than that.